Hello, welcome to another episode of A Transplant Cell. I'm your host, Sarah Adedeji, and I'm here with my guest, Dominique. Hey, Dominique.
Hey,
How are you?
I'm good,
Good. Thanks for
doing
coming.
the best I can.
Yes, yes, yes. We're glad to have you. So tell the people where you're from, where you've lived, and where you're currently living.
Okay, so I'm originally from Neptune, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I've lived in Philadelphia for a few years. Just moved back to Jersey, been here for about 2 years again. But yeah, lived out in Philly. And then what was the last part?
Yeah, where you're living now. You got them. You checked all the boxes.
Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, can you tell the people a little bit about Neptune, just like the environment, everything, and then kind of do like a compare contrast with Philly?
Yeah. So Neptune is like a small town. It's a small football town, sports town, basically. When I was in high school, I cheered. So everyone around here either like cheered, did football or basketball. We all went to one major high school and middle school. Then it's about maybe 3 elementary schools. But I would say Neptune is a very diverse town. It's a small town, so it's about 50-50, I feel like, black and white, but of course a little Hispanic and other cultures mixed in there. But yeah, by the shore, peaceful, definitely not like Philly in the way of like Philly's a city. It's fun out there. It's always something to do. Neptune, you really gotta have your group of friends or know certain people to really do much. And other than outside of that, you can go to the beach, which like right now is very a couple minutes away.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I liked about Philly basically was that it had a city, it had an art scene, something more to do other than a song.
Yeah. But you also have the beach.
But
Neptune.
sure.
But you can always go home to the beach, so that's nice. And the beach is
Yeah.
beautiful there. So what led you to move to Philadelphia?
So I moved to Philly because right before moving out there, I had worked there for 2 years. So the first year I worked there, I was in education. I had a fellowship, and it's about maybe 3-4 months. It was for the summer, I believe. And I was placed out in Philly working with this startup company. I was a project manager for them, and so I did that for the summer. And then, like in between working there, we also had our workshops up in New York. So I was actually working in Philly and New York.
Oh wow!
Summer, yeah. Like we would have maybe like we had 3-4 major meetings in New York, and then like the rest of your time would be spent like on your site, which was Philly for me. So that's when I first like really went out there. I've been out there in childhood, but it's like that was the first time I was like out there, consistently seeing really how everything was in the environment. And I was like, this is like a smaller, New York. Like I liked it a little bit. And then from Education Pioneers, I met someone, me and a girl, Rael. We became really cool. And I was telling her, after this, I'm looking for work. And she was like, "Oh, I work for City Year. I'm a recruiter." Actually, she wasn't a recruiter. She was an instructional learner, something like that. And then she was like, "We're looking for some people, so I'll give you like, I'll refer you. Find a job on there. That's how it happened. Yeah, I was referred to be a regional recruiter, and probably by like maybe a few months after that, I started working in Philly full time. At first I was still living in New Jersey, so I would travel back and forth from Jersey to Philly. But like I kind of worked out a deal with them where like I only had to be in the office like 3 days a week. And then outside of that, like I could just work from home. But still was a lot, like traveling. There's a lot on my car.
Tolls.
Right. And then getting back kind of late because working the city, I have to drive like an hour and some change back home. I just told the change. I'm like, I think it's a change. I've been in Jersey, in Monmouth County for a while. I went to school up north New Jersey, so I wasn't always in Neptune, but just in Jersey in general. And I was like, you know what? I want to move out. give my mom a break, give myself a break. Like, so I just started looking for apartments in Philly, and that's how it like happened.
I love that. And I have to tell the people how we met because they've heard about City Year. If you've watched episodes before this, you've heard about City Year before because Stephanie and Marquella, I met them through my time serving with City Year. But Dominique, I didn't meet her when I was serving with City Year. I was actually recruiting for a different organization and we were next to each other. So we just remember talk to strangers. So we just
Yeah, touch base.
talking. Yeah, oh, like you're cool, I'm cool. We're both in the same sorority. Let's do brunch. And from that brunch, we found out we were neighbors. Isn't that crazy? So, I just had to tell you that because I thought that was so funny that we found out later on that we were neighbors. So I love that.
Right. It was so funny.
Yeah.
Like, I remember telling my mom, I'm like, I finally, met someone that I really like out here. I'm like, and we live right next door.
Yeah.
Like,
So the rest is history. That was like perfect. So that was so cool. So it's great to like be able to make that connection and find people who are like-minded, good people that you can have a good time with. So that was a blessing for sure.
and it's hard in new cities, so I was like so happy to meet you. Like,
Yeah,
because I'm not really that person, like I don't talk to everybody. So I was like, yeah, this is definitely good for me, like to meet someone at work or like at a work event, really, and be able to connect like that.
absolutely. It's so cool. I love that. So navigating through Philly, like being from a small town, I know you appreciated the art and different things, but what were some like culture shocks or even like learning curves or both that you had to navigate, like being in a big-ish city? Because it's bigger than Neptune, not as big as New York or LA, but it's medium, more large maybe.
All right, and especially because like with New York, like being really close to New Jersey, and that's where we all usually like go. We want to go to a city. But we just went there for fun. Like, you go with friends or family. Like, you're not out there actually learning how to live by yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that was like the major thing for me when I first moved out to Philly. I needed to know where to live, like, right? Because Philly has like different pockets. Like, some areas you might not want to live in. Other areas, are better. So I just remember before I moved out there, I asked like, the people I was cool with at City Year. Me and my boss was really cool too, actually. So he was like a Philly native, in his 40s, been out there all his life. So I remember asking him, like, I'm thinking about moving out here. Where should I live? And he was like, if you're not going to move downtown, you want something like, a little bit more affordable. Like, you can go to Mount Airy, Germantown area. He's like, those are the only areas I would tell you to live in. Like, I live in Germantown. I think it would be good out there. So that was the first thing I kind of had to figure out and like look in that area. And I actually loved, I loved our street. Like it was
Yeah.
quiet, there wasn't much going on. So I actually loved that area that I did pick. Wish I would have picked a better building. I did love
Yeah.
it. But the rent was good there, though. I will say that. It enabled me to do a lot of other things other than like spending my money on rent, which was
Right.
good. Which was good. Another thing that was like a big culture shock to me was like the homeless population. And it's like
Downtown, they're everywhere.
yeah. And that's why I was thinking about downtown, but I did not like that. Like I
Yeah.
did not like having to like, step out of my apartment and see like homeless all over the streets. Like that was another thing. When I first started working at Philly and being a recruiter, sometimes you like go to lunch, like, go to meetings outside the office. Every time we were walking somewhere basically, or if I had to go to another school and I saw a homeless person, like I was always like giving my money away, giving my lunch away, like just giving it away because I felt so bad. And like I remember like my boss, like certain people that always lived out there, they would be like, "Oh, you don't have to do that." Like they would always be like kind of stopping me. I'm like, "What is wrong with y'all? Like these people are homeless."
Like hungry and it's hot sometimes or cold times. But
Exactly. I'm like, I don't like give. Like, oh no, we used to, or like maybe they just were tired of it. They've been out there, but that was something that like a big shot to me. Because where I'm from, it's like you don't see that. Like, I never saw homeless people like just out on the streets. Especially because again, I'm from like a small suburban rural area. You don't see that. And even kind of in like other cities of New Jersey, you gotta really go like somewhere to really see that out here in Jersey. So that was a big shock for me. But yeah, those two things.
Yeah, that's big. So, what were some of the ways that you were able to like get acclimated, kind of build your network? Because you're like, I'm not that person to just like go out and just talk to people. Even though that's hard to believe, me knowing you, you're so going. I guess you get to know people, but you're like a networker even too. So you can talk about that. You can talk about like your networking that you did and like all those. And if you want to shout anybody out or plug it, we're here for it all. So.
Okay. So that's the thing, right? Like, I am more outgoing when I know people, like, so you're my girl. So, of course, you get, like, the personality, you get the sides of me. But, like, when first, like, meeting people, I'm a little bit more reserved, like, and I'm a little bit more, like, I don't know, harder to open up, I guess I would say. And I'm not rude or anything. Like, I'll say hi, I'm a cordial person. But I'm really not the person like, hey, let's hang out. Like, no, not like that. So the first people I started hanging out with was like the people I worked with. So like, I knew the girl from Education Pioneers. Me and her really didn't like, once I got to City Year, I never really saw her. So me and her didn't really hang out like that. Cause she worked like at schools and I was more of in the office a lot. So yeah, I didn't see her like that, but I made other friends at the office that I started hanging out with. Tamika, she was a major one. She was like in the LGBTQ culture. So like, she would invite me to a lot of her events and stuff that she was doing, with that crowd. Sometimes I will go, like, just to get out, like, just to learn and get to know people. So that was kind of like the first person I hung out with. Then outside of that, just like, meeting guys, dating, started dating. And yeah, I would go out different dates with people. And that's really how I got like acclimated to the city, like, as in like meeting people. And then, yeah, thank God I ran into you, So I had like a really small crowd out here, like that I would hang out with, but it was fine with me. Like I loved it. And then us being in the sorority, like sometimes some of my friends and sorority sisters, their things from New Jersey, would come out there. So I had a friend who's a Kappa. He came out there like in my first couple of like months of living out there. So I went with him. And he stayed at my apartment actually, and just stuff like that. My brother would come out a lot, actually. Like, shout out to my brother Dante. He really did hold it down. He would come out a lot with my niece. So, I did a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And I know you were doing a podcast. So, like, how did you get into like that space and connect with those people?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was another major. I always wanted to do a podcast as well. So that was like one of the hobbies I started looking into when I first moved out there. Because yeah, I'm like, I need to like kind of get out, If I get into some clubs or like, just get into some things out here, I'll meet more people.
Right.
Sit in podcasting. So I found Rec Philly, which has like the studios and different things and kind of like a creator community. So when I joined there, I actually met some people in that little creator community. And that's how I started like, interviewing more people. Again, a lot of them were like people I already knew. But it did put me in that community. So I will go to their events sometimes. And that's one thing I'm not scared to do. Like I go out by myself, so I will go to their events, like, just by myself, talk to people. They had like workshops and, just different like cool events, like panels, different things like that. I would go. I met a cool photographer. Actually, the CEO there, one of them, Will, he was really cool as well. Talked to him a few times. Like, he probably talked to so many people, so I'm not saying I know him now. Like, it's just cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the podcast was definitely good. Like, it gave me something, like, else to do, like, especially, like, when I was, like, just home, I want to have conversations with people, so... I love it. And like, yeah, community to go to as well.
I love that. And this podcast was actually born at Rec Philly because my producer is a member there. So, producer I started with, and then we went solo. but he definitely helped me get started and, connected me
Mhm.
with Rick Philly. So we know Rick Philly.
Yeah.
I love that. So what are some of the lessons you learned, like, as you navigated through the journey?
I like living in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So I learned for sure. I feel like just how to live on my own, like, and how to be like resourceful. So, I moved out to Philly with like just by myself. Like, I didn't have like a lot of like no family, close friends out there. So I learned, yeah, how to depend on myself to make things happen, basically. Um, yeah, while I was out there, like I said, since, I don't know, I'm like a in the middle type person. Like, I'm not like really, really frugal, but I'm also not a person that spends a lot of money. So, like, I had a plan. I was like, I want to, like, not spend too much on where I'm living. So that was like my first thought. Got a studio apartment. And
Yeah.
then I was able to buy a car. Like, you know what I mean? And buy a more decent car than what I was driving before.
Yeah.
So that was in my plan. I wanted to invest money, so I started a portfolio while I was out there, like content financial advising. Wanted to start my podcast, so I wanted to like invest in equipment and like and join Rec Philly, and like that was like a monthly payment, with Rec Philly. So I just wanted to have enough money to do like some of the things that I always wanted to do. And that's something that like like I learned out there, like budgeting and really like being smart with money.
Mhm.
Um, so I can do like different things that I always had on my mind. Trying to think of anything else I got my hands into out there, but I know I just did a lot, you know, and that was one of the major lessons that
Uh,
I.
yeah. So you mentioned you moved back to Neptune. Do you want to talk about like that transition, that process, like readjusting? Because when I moved
Mhm.
back home, it's not the home I left, so I know that that's like an adjustment period in itself. So do you want to talk about like that process and that transition as much as you want to share? We don't got to tell us all your business.
No, no problem. Um, so I moved back to Jersey after being in Philly for about 4 years. I think I was out there. And then, like I said before that, I had worked out there for about a year and a half, like between two different companies. So I had been out there like a lot, like you know. I moved back home, and of course I did not want to. I love the independence that I had built, like out there. Just being able to like just do my own thing. Um, But when I did move back, that's when I started working at Google, and it was up in New York. So that's really why I moved back. I just really was just too far now from like my new job. And Jersey is like right in the middle. So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go back home and start this over. Like maybe find somewhere to live in North Jersey. Look around New York. If it's a little expensive out there, but yeah, that was like the goal moving home was to work at Google and just find somewhere to live out here. But yeah, that was like really my mindset, like just to come back and start over in a new city. Um, Especially a city that I had more familiarity with, like being up there more than Philly, like in childhood and in high school, and definitely college actually, because I went to school up north. So yeah, I was just thinking about that. It was rough, like I said, like just moving back home, because when you're out, you want to be out. Like, you want to stay out. You don't want to come back. My mom actually like didn't want me to come back. She was like, not in a bad way.
Stuff and some to be something else.
Hey,
And now I gotta move all my stuff.
no, exactly that. Like, it wasn't in a bad way. She was like, I turned your room into my craft room. I'm like, what?
Oh my God.
My mom, like, she actually knows how to draw really well and paint. So yeah, always into that, like in decor and decorating, like
Yeah.
decorating the church and like for different things. So yeah, she turned my bedroom into her craft room, like, and then also was like, yeah, like put like a little day bed in there for my niece, like just change it into the grandkids slash craft room area. Had
Oh,
to navigate that, moving all my stuff back into that small room.
yeah. No, I love it. I love it. So, how is it like working in New York? Because a lot of people make the North Jersey to New York commute, but you hadn't made it in a while. So, like, how was that process? How was working there? Because you had visited there, you had done some work there a little bit, but now this is like big girl full time work. So, how was all that?
That was back to like how it was when I first had to commute to Philly. So now instead though I had to commute to New York. Which is a little bit more hectic, I feel like. 'Cause New York is really crowded. Like, Philly was too with the traffic, but New York is a different story, I feel like. Um, but one thing that did help out, one of my close friends, Alonzo, that I met in college, he's from Jersey City. So we used to always go to his house, like, back in college and like even after. He's a Kappa too, actually. He would have like parties. So I was very familiar, like where he lived. He lived right downtown in the Newport area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so we would go there all the time just to hang out. And like when I started working up there, he was the first person that came to my mind. I'm like, listen, I'm parking near your house and I'm hopping on the PATH train, like because he lived right next to the PATH. I'm
That's
like, so I can get to work. Yeah, I'm like, so I'm not paying for that bridge every day. So that was my first thought. Like, how can I like get work in public transportation?
yeah.
Now, being from Jersey, like you don't take public transportation. Like everyone out here drives. Like
Being
yeah,
at New York, y'all still just driving.
yes, because like actually Neptune is like an hour away from the city.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's like and it's a smaller town, so it's like nobody's out here like taking a bus, like really.
That's
Like
it.
like when you go to like North Jersey area, like Newark, like more of the city parts, they take public transportation more. I feel like, but yeah, not down here. So that was my first like plan was like, I'm gonna drive to somewhere like Newark or Jersey City, like drive to a city area, and they usually have like straight direct routes into the city and
Mhm.
hop on public transportation.
Yes.
Thought of my friend, and I'm like, yeah, parking by your house. So he gave me all like the deets about that, like park over here, you can leave the car there, you
Okay.
know.
Love it.
uh, I remember how to get to the PATH train anyway, because we used to take the PATH together too into the city.
Mhm.
So yeah, I parked by his house, took the PATH up there to my job. Then it was like a small walk, like once I got off at the World Trade Center, to the Chelsea area where I live. I mean, worked, and yeah, I was out there and good with Google too. Like the recruiter position, so I did a tech, recruiter position there. You only had to go in office for that too, like 2-3 times at the most a week.
Nice.
Because my manager was actually out in California, so she wasn't even there. Like,
Right.
but she just told us like, oh, the expectation is for you to at least go into the office like 2 or 3 times. And I loved it. Like Google was a big campus,
Yeah.
like expanded like blocks, and they had all these cafeterias and fun things. Like, they had corporate happy hours every
Yeah.
Thursday. Like they had a lot of like events and different things. So, that was the fun part. Like you said,
Mhm.
like this was like my first like major job out in the city. So it was very fun. I always start meeting like friends at work. Like I met like a few friends in the recruitment department there, and
Nice.
like we would probably go out like I think it was like yeah Thursday was like the lit night. Like, like we all would like just go out after work all the time. Like you know found some new spots in the city that I like. Yeah, it was a fun job.
Yeah, I love that. And I always see the movies, like the tech companies on the movies that have like the slides and the nesting pods and all the different little foods and stuff. So it's really like that.
It's really like that. Like
That's
Google
so cool.
had, I'm glad you brought that up too, because Google had like a like you said, like a nesting area. So basically,
Yeah,
like you can go into a pod. They were called sleep pods, and you can go
yeah.
really take a nap at work.
That's so
They had them in every building. They just had like crazy like seating areas where you could sit and do your work.
cool.
It had 9 cafeterias and
Wow.
like yeah,
I
and
need
like cafes.
I,
No, Google was crazy. No, it was real crazy up in there. And then like other than the cafes, they had gyms, saunas, like just everything all set up.
that's so
Um,
cool.
Something else that was crazy there. Oh, they had scooters. I used to ride around the office on scooters,
Wow.
like,
I love
you
that.
know.
Are they trying to like balance out for the stress that comes with the actual job?
I think so.
Sounded
Cause
too
yeah,
good.
that's another thing. Like they will work you and give you like projects, like especially the engineers. Like what they work a lot, like
Yeah.
long hours.
Wow.
But being a recruiter, we had like a little bit more fun. But
Yeah.
you know, we still were expected to do a lot. So yeah, I think they try to like put a lot of entertainment in there because you are at work a long time sometimes.
Right.
And everything was on them. Like the food was free, all those different like services, like everything was free.
Right.
The gym, all that stuff. Yeah.
That's nice. I love that. So, is there anything that you would have changed, or like any advice that, based on what you know today, that you would give yourself when you first moved to Philly?
Yeah, I would say I would take more time. Maybe I think I would have like just moved again, possibly. Like take more time looking at another building. I think that was like my only thing, like because that started to be a headache, like dealing with the landlord there. Um, So I would do that. I was like kind of like, just like wanting to get settled really quickly,
Mm-hmm.
like in a rush in a way. you know? Like
Yeah.
I wanted to like just get out and get on my own and
Mm-hmm.
start, making my plans. So I think I would take more time in that area.
Yeah.
I also was like saying too, like, even though I'm thankful that like, I started making friends and putting myself in certain spaces. I feel like if I was to move far away again, like I would want to move like with a partner, or with a friend, like, or move somewhere where like I have some family,
Mm-hmm.
so I could just have more people like to lean on, when I need them. Um, Only like the good thing about Philly is like it's right next to Jersey, so again, like my brother came out and different things.
Mm-hmm.
Like my mom, she never was a driver. Like she only came to visit like twice, like top. And
Yeah.
she had to get somebody to drive her out here every single time. Like, cause she hates bridges. Like she's scared of bridges. So,
Wow. Yeah, she definitely.
so she don't really drive anywhere where she got to cross like big bridges. Like, so I had to go get her. And then I think my brother either dropped her off or picked her up. Like we had to do one of the ways to get her out here. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I'm glad y'all went about them.
And then, what was another thing? I don't know. Like, I like the city, but I feel like I'm more of like a suburban, like peaceful girl. Like, I feel like I would move somewhere too that's like better, like more of my vibe. Like,
Yeah.
certain things, like I said, that like just happen to see. I'm like, I'm not used to seeing all this. It's crazy. Like, that's not on. So yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so, I guess if there's anything you would add differently for like a person who is looking to move now. So that's like, your personal advice for you, like, I probably should have thought about this thing. But is there anything in addition to that information that you would share with someone who's wanting to be a transplant now?
Yes. I would definitely tell them, yeah, make sure you do your research. So, if you know people, if you're working in that area previously, like that might be a good place to start if you want to transplant somewhere. Maybe try to get a job in a different state, definitely. You're going to need some income.
Right.
So start there. If it's not too far, like, you don't have to move right away. Make some friends at work. That's always like a good resource, because people at work, they're going to help you out. So ask advice, try to get people that actually live out there to help you out. Um, Also, find a hobby. Like, that was one of my saving graces too. Find a hobby while you're out there. If you want to do podcasting, like the art scene, like whatever you like try to find a community. We got all types of things now that you can join in clubs like
Mm-hmm.
that. um, I will also say, I think that's like the main thing. Do your research and I think like find a club. Yeah. I'm like you just like you need to be able to meet new people in some type of way. Be
Absolutely.
more open to me. You know what I mean? Even if you're not You know, be a little extroverted so you can meet people, you know, just put yourself out there more, but in a safe way, right? So, like, you know, I started, like I said, with people at work more of, like, I just wasn't, like, going up to random people, like, at clubs or,
Right.
you know,
Right.
you would be safe, you know.
Absolutely.
But yeah, and then like even with Rec Philly, like I would like talk to those people more of at Rec Philly. Like I really didn't hang out with them outside of there. But they were like, you know, good to hang out with, like, and meet at the studio, like, you know, things like that. And yeah, and if you're in a sorority or something or a fraternity, and of course, like, you know, go to the local chapters out there, join, you know, try to find your tribe.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love it. I love it. Is there anything else you want to tell the people before we wrap up?
Um, I would just say it's a good idea, basically, to move out, you know, your hometown and your safe place, so wherever you're from, because you learn a lot about yourself. Like, you know, like I said, I feel like I learned that I can, like, definitely take care of myself and, like, be, like, you know, tougher than what, like, you know, I am really, like, because I'm, like, the baby of the family, so it's like, you know, people are always kind of, like, doing for me and, like, oh, you know, you know, she's gonna be here, like, you know, just not expecting me to kind of ever, like, move out and branch out on my own and take care of myself. So I would definitely say, like, yeah, life is short, you know. I never wanted to move to Philly, like, that was never on my bucket list, but, you know, I actually wanted to move to Florida. Me and my cousin, that was, like, you know, our first, because we have family from there, like, our family's from out there. So we were always gonna go to Miami University, like, you know. But, that never happened. You know, just going out there, having fun, like I said, creating a life of my own. Um, I think that's something that you should do. Try to find a job where you could travel, like, you know, being a recruiter, especially with City Year. Like when we first started pre-COVID, we had a lot of trainings. Like we had a training actually for a week in Miami when I first started. Yeah.
That's cool.
It was really nice. So find a job maybe where it could take you a couple places. We went to Buffalo for one of our recruitment like workshops in upstate New York for about a week. I went to Canada through that, like after the training, like me and a few like yeah. So yeah, it's like find a good job that you can have some fun with. And then if it's a job that enables you to travel and get out there, definitely like, you know, take that chance.
Love that. I love that. So one last question before I let you go. So what is something, a song, a quote, a scripture, a passage, just a life motto, something you always heard growing up that has kept you motivated and sustained throughout your transplant journey or just in life in general?
Hard one. I don't know if I've had like a motto. Um, but I've always been a person that like kind of tried new things, like, you know what I mean? And just like wanted to like, you know, be different in a way. Like I never like followed the pack or like, you know, followed like whoever like the popular kids was. Like I always kind of did what I wanted to do. And I think that's something that like definitely has led me to like, you know, a lot of my opportunities, you know? Like I said, starting out here, being a cheerleader, into cotillion, like my mom was very big on that. Like now that's one thing for my mom. Like she's very big on like us being active. So like I literally did everything. And I think that's kind of like something that was instilled in me, like to always just like do multiple things at once. Like, then I went to college too, or the same thing. That's why I joined my sorority. I was in like the African student union club. Like I've always did multiple things to put myself out there. Had some internships, like I had about 2 or 3 of those. I was out there, worked, waitress, catering. Like, you know, I always put myself like in so many different spaces. So I feel like that helped me like open up my net, you know. Because again, I feel like I have to like kind of be familiar with people before I open up. So put myself in those type of spaces to become familiar with people. And a lot of my opportunities in life, again, came from like just people that I met, like my work friends, you know, my cheerleading friends, my sorority friends, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just the different groups I was in, you know, someone I met at a fellowship or externship or anything like that, like just meeting people, I think is a good way to go about life.
Well, thank you so much for being on here and sharing your story with the people.
Oh, this was fun.
Yes, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And thank you all for watching or listening to another episode of A Transplant's Tale. See ya.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you for listening to another episode of A Transplant's Tale. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. See ya.